Okay, so well, let's start with our motivation for being present in the second session of our, um, talks about hard advice on death and dying, and thinking that we should do this with a positive, virtuous motivation for the benefit of oneself and others. And I thought that I would read this little quote that I love very much from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which I might have shared with you. I'm not sure the last time. Um, and so, if you can just think that that would be a good motivation, um, taking into account our precious human rebirth, but also thinking that the precious human rebirth doesn't last very long, and eventually we go towards our death and the next life. Okay, so just listen for a minute here as I read this. And it's actually about a precious human life from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Every day, think as you wake up. Today, I'm fortunate to have woken up. I'm alive. I have a precious human life. I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to use all my energies to develop myself, to expand my heart out to others, to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. I'm going to have kind thoughts towards others. I'm not going to get angry or think badly about others. I'm going to benefit others as much as I can. And so let that be the motivation for today, and in fact, for all our days ahead, which needs reminding because we're all not perfect. Okay, let me just put this aside. So with that in mind, let's begin with our usual prayers that we start with. We can pull up the PowerPoint if you have it. And you might like to just visualize the Buddha or your guru in front of you, if you have one, and to think that we are reciting these prayers with devotion, with our understanding of the Dharma. And so first making an offering with a short mandala, which I'll just do it in English. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all transmigratory beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Radha Mandalakam Niyatayami. And then taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly by my merits of giving and other perfections. May I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly by my merits of giving and other perfections. May I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly by my merits of giving and other perfections. May I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Okay, and I'm guessing that everyone who is here present are quite familiar with Dharma, even if I can't see you on screen. We seem to have some very new people in the first session, isn't it? So if they come on, then maybe they need a bit of guidance, but if not, then we'll just carry on. So we are continuing to talk about the subject of death and impermanence and to reflect on this. And I did have some sort of suggested things you could do between sessions, sort of like homework. And maybe you tried to do that, and I hope it has helped you. I'm trying to follow the program, the set of materials given for this course, and which was Venerable Sangye Kadro. You might be familiar with her. She had a great role in it, and she's given lots of meditations, but I am adapting it according to what is kind of practical to do with an online audience, right? So let's continue and to talk about impermanence, which was what we really got into in the first session, just easing our way into this topic and setting the kind of ground for our discussions. And that mainly there are, huge advantages in thinking about remembering death, the end time of a life, and which kind of supersedes, I guess, or is of much higher priority than if we were not to think about the subject. So I'd like to share this little quote from a Buddha, which you might have heard couched in sort of different words. The end of all that has been hoarded up is to be spent. The end of what has been lifted up is to be cast down. The end of meeting is separation. The end of life is death. And it's really quite simple to understand, yet really profound. Starting with the first line, the end of all that has been hoarded up or accumulated is to be spent in the end. Like whatever we keep, we can't really hold on to. And the end of what has been lifted up or, has been brought up will eventually be cast down. So maybe the idea of constructing buildings or houses or even a tall tree in the forest will one day, the tree will one day, even if it survives for hundreds of years, it may not last forever. And, certainly with buildings, even very beautiful, kind of skyscrapers. You have that history with the 9/11. And also, I'm just thinking because excuse me, this morning I woke up to reading news that over in Hong Kong, which is on kind of the same time zone as Singapore, there's a huge fire raging and 8 tall blocks of apartments are burning up, and lives have been lost, unfortunately, and hundreds are waiting to be found. So yeah, I mean, in that sense, but also what is brought high, someone with a lot, talking about a human or a person with a lot of power will one day be cast low. The end of meeting is separation. And that brings us closer to what we're looking at directly, which the end of life is death. And so even if we come into a life and we have years of, a loving or a close community or an admiring community around us, followers or whatever it is at the time of death, they can't come along with us. And people come and go in our lives as well, isn't it? And people meet and then they break up and so on and so forth. And the end of life, as soon as we're born, we're actually going towards death. So Buddha gave this verse in relation to his final teaching when he was asked to teach. And actually, this is in relation to the kind of principle teaching that he gave at that time, which is called the Four Misconceptions, or kind of the four erroneous conceptions. Misconceptions is good enough. And I'm not going through the whole 4 lines. I'm just going to pick out the third line, which is the conception or conceiving what is impermanent to be permanent, and which is really relevant to our subject, that we live our whole lives, thinking as if everything is kind of fixed as we go about. We have this great clinging and attachment to the comforts and the enjoyments that we have, that we're surrounded by, to our relationships with people, including, whether it's someone that is dear or someone that is kind of and the enemy. We also cling on to that idea of an enemy in our minds as if it is something very fixed and permanent. So of course, then by that token, we also cling to those that we hold very dear with great attachment. And then we cling on to possessions, things that we own, things that we feel we have a right to, and including possession of our own concepts, our own opinions, our own views about any subject that you can bring up, and then also great attachment to the activities that we take as part of our routine, as if they were everlasting and solid and just something that has to go on forever. Like for me, as for millions of people around the world, I wake up and I have to have my coffee. Maybe for you in the evening now, you're not having coffee, but for me here, it's past 10 in the morning, and I have a cup of coffee or a flask of coffee that kind of lasts me through all my excuse me, all my couple of hours of doing my prayers and practices. So making the cup of coffee is like a morning ritual. And so all of these things keeps us really busy and involved, isn't it, with our life? And therefore, suddenly when something, an event, kind of bumps up in our life, like becoming sick, whether it's a short-term sickness or a long-term sickness, it's unexpected. It's shocking. It should never happen, because we were never expecting it. We weren't ready for it. Therefore, it's no, certainly there's many more benefits to thinking that we should train ourselves to be mindful and to not take our life on earth, in this life for granted, but to look further ahead and not to think even that death is taken for granted as something being in the far distance, but something that we should put more attention to. Okay, and so that's kind of the intro for today. And we ended up last week with coming into the 9 meditation, the 9-point meditation on death. And I brought up the 3 roots, which actually, some of you might already be familiar with it. The first one is death is certain. Death is sure to happen, right? And then secondly, the time of death is uncertain. And thirdly, at the time of death, nothing can help us except religious practice. I mean, here we generally, because, this is, a course from a Buddhist center. So generally, we regard that most of you would be accepting of the Dharma. If anyone comes in from outside, or well, outside in the sense that you have your own religious beliefs, or you stay neutral, then I'm also just respecting that in that sense. Okay. So let's deal further with death is sure to come. Death is certain. And that, in fact, every one of us will die. So in each of these, why it's called the 9-point meditation is because these 3 routes are each divided into 3 further points, making a total of 9. And why is it a meditation? Is because as we go through each point, and hear, what the reasoning is behind each of these points, then at the end of it, we should be making a determination with regard to that point. So it's sometimes called the 3 decisions or the 3 conclusions. So at each round, we look at the kind of conclusion that this line of reasoning should bring us to. All right, so death will surely happen to everyone, no matter what. So if anyone can bring up an example of someone who hasn't died, even Buddha died, even Buddha showed Shakyamuni Buddha, and all the Buddhas show the aspect of passing away. It's not like they show that they're immortal and live forever. Even our precious gurus, like Kepche Lama Zopa Rinpoche showed us, displayed the aspect of passing away, and also Lama Yeshe many years before. So even our teachers take on that aspect of passing away. What more regular human beings? And we see that all around us with animals. Sorry to say, but it's it's a season for eating turkey, isn't it? Yeah. And those kind of things, right? Whatever it is, animals, even our beloved pets and all that, right? So it's not hard to relate to. And all religions hold this in common. It's not like there's one set of beliefs that says otherwise, right? That's contrary to that. So, and it can happen to the very young, at infancy, a little older, and anytime throughout a lifespan, right? Even someone living beyond 100 years, which is seems to be talked about, and a phenomenon nowadays, right? They pass away eventually. Whatever you have, however much wealth one has accumulated, or a homeless person, someone who is greatly renowned, famous, or someone who seems to be without any reputation, just a nobody kind of person. So yeah, in that sense, as I quoted last week, that death has equal opportunity for everyone, right? And then in our own lives too, we've seen our near and dear ones, or those that we have heard of, one day they were here, and then now you look back and they're just a memory, someone that we knew, right? Hmm. So that is just mainly that I don't think it's too complicated to get that if we think about it, that first point that uh, it's a situation where death is definitely a certainty. Then the second point to look at is life is always getting shorter. The lifespan is not being extended in that way, but it is ever decreasing. And, there's no way to really make it much longer, even though scientists are trying. I've been reading about, research going into this idea of preserving people for a very long time. Almost like trying to bring in immortality, isn't it? And I'm sure something will succeed to some extent. Um, However, in the Buddhist cosmology, there's a different kind of view on it. So, we decide which one, actually fits our minds better. Um, as far as the contemporary kind of age, how do you say, lifespan is, it's, as I said, possible to live past 100 years. Excuse me. Well, that's the thing with, I have this morning thing. It's not because I'm ill or anything like that. So excuse my little la la kind of sound. Yeah. So generally, though, these days they say that the lifespan is about 80 years on average. And they say that perhaps women live a little longer than men, by a few years or whatever it is. I don't think it really matters so much on that level. So here's a thought which I did bring up briefly, and I'll just talk a little bit more about it. That in Buddhist cosmology, they say that there are different kind of continents, right? And that's like why when we're offering the mandala, we are visualizing Mount Meru, which is um, and that those of us that here on this planet Earth, and this is called the southern continent. I think that it's not something to take too seriously, because sometimes even His Holiness makes a joke that he's not so sure, like when he's come across these kind of things, how relevant, or how kind of realistic that is in contemporary terms. So anyway, it is said that among these four continents, here we are on this southern continent, and here the lifespan is not fixed. Whereas, humans that are born on these other continents, for example, there's one called Uttara Kuru. I don't know if I pronounced that properly, but on that, in that system, humans live up to 1,000 years old. And then on the other two, then it seems that they're reduced by half, and then another half, which I guess means on one, lifespan is 500 years, and then on the other, it's 250 years, or oops. Yeah, however you want to look at it. So meaning that if you're born in those places, then definitely you'll know when the end is coming. However, here, our lifespan is generally between, well, it's gone up, right? Since maybe a few centuries ago, and they said 60 years, maybe now it's more commonly 80 years or 90 years or 100 or whatever it is. But in actual fact, also according to the Buddhist cosmology, then, or according to Buddha's omniscient mind, then over time, human lifespan is actually decreasing gradually and not extending as we would like to believe, meaning that in times past, that humans actually were able to live much longer than what we think. I mean, whether we find evidence of that is another thing, but we're actually living in a time, which is why they call it the degenerate times also, is that not only is the state of the world more degenerate, but that lifespan is gradually decreasing. And it says that up to a time when the human lifespan is only 10 years. So, I mean, these are all kind of a stretch, but I'm just bringing this up just to, talk about this idea that as much as we take it for granted, whether it's 80 or 100 years, or even if we arrive there, that it's not something that is ever increasing. We can look at that in terms of considering our physical state as years go by, that we're not like we were as 10-year-olds, able to jump around and do all kinds of things, isn't it? And Lama Zopa Rinpoche's writings, or well, teachings rather, he brings up this example of like looking at our parents, our grandparents, and then further back even to great grandparents and so forth. Through our own ancestry, they're no longer here anymore. Some of our relatives are, long, long gone. And, and we're in the next generation. So how can we say that we will definitely remain, right? So then that is the second point to contemplate, that our lifespan is gradually decreasing and not extending. And then the third one is that as life slips by, there is very little time to practice Dharma or to think about, spiritual practice, right? There's a kind of a common analogy that many of the teachers, the lamas, they like to use this, and I think it's easy to relate to, because whether, in Pabongka Rinpoche's Liberation in the Palm of the Hand, some of you know the book, he talks about the lifespan being 60 years. I mean, that was over 100 years, more than 100 years ago, isn't it? Maybe in the 19th century or early 20th century, I'm not sure. But as I said, these days we talk about 80 years, as the average lifespan, right? So however much we divide it, then in the beginning, soon after being born, we're too young, isn't it? We are only just learning how to crawl and walk and speak and all those kinds of things. And then, with childhood, our teenage years and young adulthood, all that time is spent with a lot of other activities and priorities, isn't it? Or just not even knowing what's going on if you're a little baby. So maybe a good 20 years of our lives have gone by in that manner. And then, for the next 20 or 30 years, then our concerns are with getting involved with developing our lives, right? With our work, with family life, various responsibilities and interests, sports and whatever, and chasing our dreams in that sense. And so that's another 20, 30 plus years that kind of just go by. And then we come to past middle age, and then into our older years, and by which time, how much time that we really have left, as our bodies become more frail and along with our minds, right? In the world also, dementia is often brought up as being very significant nowadays. So, there are all these things happening. So how much time is there left with our physically and mentally to be mindful and to prepare for the time of death, right? Not much time left, right? If you just kind of cut away all those other parts, isn't it? So then it's important, isn't it, with looking at this timeline of our lives to want to put our focus, or more energies into preparing for the eventuality of death. So I also thought to just bring up an example that, for us, we can't really determine how long that we can stay alive because we're just generally ordinary people, right? And so therefore, we really should be making the best use of life and thinking about how to make it more meaningful. And it's just because, as I brought up last week, right, typically there might be ideas that going towards death is really something fearful and kind of going into something that's really unknown. And so we have a lot of anxiety about the process, and so therefore we put it away from our minds, right? And we have this sense of denial. I think if we check up on ourselves, that we have all gone through that, and then even if we think about it after a while, you just, oh, okay, I've thought about it, all right, um, you know done and dusted, and then you go back to our regular habits, isn't it? So therefore, then we should be making a resolve, that it is important to do something about this. And so therefore, we should arrive at a conclusion, which is after having reflected on those 3 points, I'm definitely going to die. My lifespan is getting shorter. And as the time goes by, I'm not really devoting much time to my spiritual needs in that sense, right? The thinking about Dharma to my practice. Therefore, it is important to remember death and impermanence right now, right? To practice Dharma now is what it says in the Lamrim, right? By reflecting on how you would like things to be at the end of this life, right? So now we're going to talk a little bit about how we're going to do this, how we're going to do this practice of Dharma, of the Dharma. What does it mean? Because you read or you hear like we need to practice now, but what does it really mean? Sometimes I also ask myself, what does it really mean? As I kind of go about finishing my daily commitments, which, as I said, takes hours to do because I was too enthusiastic at the start, and then I still continued to be enthusiastic. So I've taken on a lot of commitments, right? So we would hope, I think, that the end time of this life is peaceful and kind of even with a smile and not with fear and regret. Let me see if I can remember something that the lamas like to quote as well, which is that the yogis die very happily. They just go enthusiastically and joyfully towards their death. And those that have some middling practice, they go with a peaceful mind. And those who have made some attempt at practice, they die without regret. So, whichever of those three levels, um, that illustrates that it is possible to depart without that kind of negative or fearful emotion, right? Lama Zopa Rinpoche has described it as having instead, a healthy fear. Or there's also a book that was published many years ago, again, together with Venerable Sangye Kadro, which is called Wholesome Fear. And, it is referring to preparing, with the understanding of impermanence for death, but with a healthy kind of fear that, you're going to move towards it constructively and wisely, understanding consequences and understanding things about, mind, about, what it means to live a meaningful life. So that is the kind of fear that we should be, planning. We shouldn't be following our own projections in that sense, right? So, like having a lot of fear and having, a lot of sadness or denial and those kind of feelings. A lot of it actually does come from our projections, and it's something that we have to do on our own. Medicine or somebody else cannot really take it away from you. We have to transform our own mind in that sense, right? So while we're still here, generally, moving around, generally quite healthy, while we're still alive, then we still have time. We still have time to work out any of these notions that we have concerning death and to sort out these emotions. And, that's really the whole purpose of having these talks, right, that we're having right now. And generally, it might sound kind of, but actually to have a good death, requires living a good life. But that's what it really comes down to. I thought of, people that I could refer to as examples, and a recent one who, to me, very inspiring, was Jane Goodall. You might have heard of Jane Goodall, who passed away in October, isn't it? Over a month ago. She was the lady who championed chimpanzees, and brought a lot of awareness to the world, to science, about our understanding of primates, and that chimpanzees have intelligence, and all those kind of research that she did. So she passed away in her 90s, isn't it? Early 90s, I think. And she had illness, but it seemed like from what I came across that she was staying very active up till as close to the end as she could. She was still touring somewhere in America, I believe. And she was still working very hard for her various projects, education campaigns with kids in schools and things like that, you know. So and it sounded like she was drawn to animals from a very young age, and then she had the opportunity to live out those dreams. Um, and you know, to me, that's an example of someone who exemplifies living with a good heart, which is brings me to this topic here of living with a good heart. And Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, uh, liked to use that a lot in his teachings, which is to have the good heart. And what it means is to have an expansive kind of heart of being kind to others, right? And to show kindness wherever we go. And, you know, I thought to go into that here at this juncture. As you know, if you ask like, oh, what does it mean, right? You've been talking about living meaningfully and being mindful and those kind of things. So the main one is to think about the attachments that we have, that we hold on to in our lives, and that we regard as being really fixed and permanent, and without really reflecting on their impermanence. And then in order to go a step further to say then what does it take to live with Dharma? What does it take to practice Dharma? Then, you know, at the sort of at the minimum, then it's to practice with a good heart, you know, and to sort of um, make ourselves available to the power of kindness in ourselves, right? And again, this is very logical, you know, not too difficult to understand. You know, like the way Jane Goodall interacted with animals, then you could see how much the animals return her affection and trust, isn't it? So when others are happy, then, you know, and we make others happy, then we ourselves are easily filled up with happiness, isn't it? You know, it's not like we're going to be like, oh, I was nice to that person. Like, oh, that's, you don't kind of have a negative reaction to that, isn't it? It just doesn't seem to make sense, right? And I'd like to just paraphrase some of you know, there's this book that you can also look into if you want to follow up further with this later on after the course, which is How to Enjoy Death, which is a book from Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I'm not sure if you could maybe get hold of it in Wisdom Publications or one of these publishers. A good heart makes us brave in the face of our problems. A good heart fulfills our own wishes. A good heart makes death easy. A good heart allows us to die without fear. By living with a good heart, we will die free from guilt and fear. We will be satisfied with our life and have no sense of things undone. Another level to bring to this discussion of cultivating a good heart is that you know, we should do it without a worldly attitude, without being motivated by our attachment. Excuse me for a second. Without being motivated by our attachment. Attachment to what? So here I'd like to talk a little bit about the worldly concerns, right? You might have heard of it. There are 8 worldly concerns. I'm not going to go into it in detail, but just to give you the idea. So in the Dharma, they talk about practice of Dharma being pure. Then there is what is referred to as worldly Dharma, and this is what the worldly concerns are, which is the concern for receiving gifts. Like, so when you do something, it's with having a kind of thought that you're going to get something in return for it, or that you're going to receive comforts from something that you have done. And comforts could be in terms of some kind of physical, concrete, pleasurable thing from it. Something that will make you feel really nice and happy. And then there's the concern of becoming famous, for whatever it is that you're doing. Um, I mean, there are different reasons, we can't really judge the motivation that people have, but then, if someone has done something charitable, and then they need to let the whole world know about it. And these days, you can literally let the whole world know about it, isn't it? Just press a button on your phone and your story goes out to millions, and you have a lot of admirers and likes and followers. I mean, it feels nice because you feel like you're being rewarded. um, and then also along with that is being praised, isn't it? Oh, you're wonderful, you're so kind, you're the most compassionate person in the world. Oh, you're just superb, and all those kind of things, right? So and then you see that's kind of where we want to watch our reaction. Like suddenly it's real, like, oh wow, I really am this. I'm really standing in the spotlight, and I'm the star, uh, and we get fixated with it. And that fixation is leading towards that in our mind, which regards it as permanent, you see, something really solid, independent out there. My fame, my I don't know, my stature, my reputation, and all these things that I'm getting. They do have that as well, isn't it? I mean, it's a phenomenon that I'm commenting on, not whether with any opinion, but it's something, right, that people have these reality things, channels that they run about, um, on social media, and then people can support them by sending gifts, right, and donations and sponsorships and those kind of things. So it's something that is really happening out there. It's not just something that is limited to reading a few lines here, isn't it? So that's on the side of when we are able to get those things. However, what happens when we don't get what we want, right? Then our reaction becomes really negative and goes to the other extreme of being very, very upset that nobody gave me anything, nobody thanked me, you know, nobody liked, nobody praised. And I instead of becoming famous, then you get insulted instead, or criticized for something that you did. And then this disheartens us, isn't it? So, so that should not be the motivation for wanting to practice the Dharma, for wanting to have the good heart, for wanting to show kindness, or developing our compassion. That's not what it's all about. There are meditators, who just go off into the mountains, and they just move away from city life, village life, people life. And then eventually, when they pass away, it's very quiet, and it could turn out that they were great yogis. and that nobody really knew about them. So it's hard to tell, isn't it? And so we have to weigh these things. So that is kind of sums up the first root of the 9 point or the 9 round meditation on death, what I've just covered. I have a bit of time to go a bit further into the next point, which is number 2, the second root, which is the time of death is uncertain. We don't know when we're going, right? And I have time to look at the first point, which is our lifespan is not fixed, and which means that we don't know when we're going to die. We don't know when we're going to leave. This is not really difficult to understand, but this is to make us reflect so that we give importance and priority to reflecting on death and impermanence. It's not just kind of bringing it up for its own sake. I'm sure you understand that. So all around us, we can bring up our own examples, and stories, hundreds of examples of how people have, already passed away, different kinds of situations, whether that it applies to individuals, or reading the news, or that we've heard about large groups of people that just died, often in sad situations, right? In violence, due to natural disasters or other kind of unfortunate, accidents or incidents. So many, right, that we can think of. Never mind thinking about illness, and illness also, if it's terminal illness, sometimes it's also not that quick, isn't it? It could stretch on. Of course, people do die very suddenly. And, so, just look around and just go back into your own memories or your own circle, and you'll see many, many examples. Some people have very short lives, and others live, to a ripe old age. So it's hard to tell, right? I thought of bringing up some examples with regard to talking about this. So, it's more in relation to people that I knew or know who had diagnoses of terminal illness. So I had a very dear friend called Graham. He passed away, it's maybe at least 12 years or something ago. It's been a long time. So he had cancer, and it's nasal cancer. I'm not sure if that's very common, and it had spread quite deeply. And he had, of course, taken all these treatments, chemo and all those things. And then at one period, it seemed to have gone into remission, but then it resurfaced, So one time I used to have a newsletter or I was the editor of the newsletter for Amitabha Buddhist Center here in Singapore. And, I would look for articles to write about, and I had gone to talk to him about his illness. And so he said that he was really trying to use that sickness to practice Dharma, what he had learned, because he attended classes for many years and did all kinds of preliminary practices and So he said, and of course, often he had to go to the hospital because he had to receive his treatments. He said that when he first found out that he was diagnosed with cancer, because I'm not sure he had reached the age of 40. Maybe it was thereabouts, late 30s to about 40, early 40s, around there. So he was, of course, shocked, you know, and the first kind of thoughts was that he was very upset and like, why did this happen to me? I think most people have that. Like, why does it happen to me? Why did it happen to me? I'm so young, I still have so much life that I want to live, and why has this happened to me? So, he went through that phase. And then later, as he went to the hospital for his visits and, all around, he could see that there were a lot of other people who were also ill. And he said that, well, then when he looked around and he could see that there were uh, other people who were in a worse state than he was. Um, and he used those moments to develop his own compassion and to develop bodhicitta, he said, towards all these people. And then he tried to practice tonglen, taking and giving, which let's see, we can talk about it in the next 1 or 2 weeks. He tried to do tonglen practice, taking on the suffering of others and giving happiness, virtue, all your merit to others. And anyway, he did those kind of practices, and he passed away. And yeah, so of course I look back and I remember that kind of an interview and talking to him, and he was before that, such a lively, kind of almost like a life of the party kind of person. And yeah, so those are kind of the thoughts that come to people's minds, right? And then there's this other person that I've met. I've not seen him in many years. His name's Ross, and he lives in another country. And then I also had heard that he was terminally ill. He is a student of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and he had a very rare form of cancer. Yeah, something quite rare. And then he was also told that he wouldn't live more than a year or something. And around that time, actually, Rinpoche had given him a project. Lama Zopa Rinpoche had given him a project to do editing of a certain kind of book, a certain topic. Yeah, I just maybe should preserve the anonymity of the person a little, so I'm not just going to say who it is. So yeah, and then so we knew, and I had kind of had a little chat, and that we knew that he had this illness and he wasn't expecting to live much longer. And he wasn't like a younger person like my friend, is a bit older. But just recently, they've had anyway, years have gone by, and recently I've just seen, because one of my gurus has been teaching in the country, and they've had quite a large event, and I saw him in the photo, and I'm so happy to see that he's still around, and that after more than 12 years have passed, and he hasn't died yet. So there must be some karma, some reason for him to still be around. And also he looks quite healthy, like he's moving around, and it didn't look like he was in a very uncomfortable physical situation. So yeah, the time of death is really uncertain. So as I said, even a highly capable medical professional can give you an idea that you'll pass away soon, but then the time pass by and the person is still around with us. So we really live with that sense of uncertainty, and therefore it should motivate us to make the best use of our time. We are, ordinary beings in that sense, ordinary human beings. We are not that kind of being who has the ability to determine when they're going to pass away. And there are beings who have this ability, such as His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who in recent years has been giving, in public, his talks and in, front of large audiences, and saying that, due to the faith and devotion, shown to him by the disciples, by the Tibetan people, that he has made the determination that he will live to at least 110, and sometimes he gives a longer time than 110. And we are also overjoyed because to those of us who regard him as being extremely precious to us, to humanity, and to hear this, so someone like that who can say that is someone who has realizations and is able to tell us that in public. I mean, not to just whisper it to a room full of people, but to thousands of people. So there are those who have that ability to choose how beneficial it is for them to remain. For the rest of us, though, we do have a fair amount of work to put in before we can speak of the same. Yeah. So therefore, we should contemplate our own impermanence and, take this mindfulness of death as something that we need to train in. The Buddha has said that we don't know what will come first, tomorrow or the next life. You might have heard of that before as well. So I thought that we'll continue with the other 2 points and our other discussions on these points in the next lesson. Today, for the remaining part of the session, shall we do a meditation practice? Anyway, for you guys, it's evening time, nighttime. So maybe it's something quite appropriate. Let's try this out, all right? So it's only Sheila that I can see, but everyone else, I'm guessing you're seated up. Yep, thank you. If you're in a chair and sitting up. The people that I thought might be really new and really absolute beginners, they didn't seem to have joined, I'm guessing. However, actually, I just wanted to say that, even if this is like on Zoom and we're not in the same room together, but just out of respect for the subject that I'm talking about, then we should actually be seated, whether it's on a chair or your bed or whatever, but you should be seated, and one should not be like horizontal, like lying flat. That's not regarded as appropriate, and also karmically, that's not a good idea as well. Anyway, so just put yourself comfortably in your seat and try to have your back upright. And you can put your hands in your lap if you're familiar with meditation posture, with your right hand, your right palm over your left, right, facing up in your lap. And then you can allow your eyelids to droop and to close, but not tightly. and to have your head aligned. So just take a moment to make yourself comfortable and adjust if you need to. And then also just to adjust your own motivation, thinking that, I'm taking this few minutes of following this meditation to be able to train myself in death and impermanence so that I may be able to create more peace for myself and bring peace to those around me and beyond. And then just focus now on your breathing and count a few breaths as you inhale in and out. That is 1. And count up to around 8 in and out. So just observing your breath and letting go of whatever thoughts that have been lingering in your mind. Focusing inward. And then bringing your attention back to the breath, the air moving in and out. And then just think, this air that I'm inhaling, exhaling, this ability to breathe in and out. This is what is keeping me alive right now. This is vital to my life, vital to keeping me alive in this body. One day, the breath will stop. So just reflect on this for a moment. Now think at that time when you take your last breath, how would you wish it to be? How would you like to be in those moments? Would you wish it to be peaceful? For you to have courage, to feel satisfied with all that you will leave behind? So just pause and think about this for a moment. In order to leave behind a satisfied life, in order to depart peacefully, think, I need to prepare now. I can't leave it to the very end, since I don't know when I will die, when that will happen. I need to make the best use of my time to make it meaningful for myself and for others. Think of who you have faith in, be it Buddha or a creator. So think, with my faith in Buddha or perhaps God, I must strive for the virtuous life, to be kind, to develop the good heart that brings happiness to myself and others. So reflect on this for a moment, if this makes sense for you, if this sits well with you. Think that this will bring more peace to yourself by practicing in this way with body, speech, and mind. How this will definitely bring happiness to those around me as well. You may want to think of some actions that you could immediately apply in terms of living with a good heart. What does this mean for you in your own experience? And think that this is really something possible for you to do. It's not difficult. And these will make your life really worthwhile. So come to a conclusion on this reflection about developing a good heart and how you will do it. And think that by cultivating this way of living, it will definitely be helpful at the time of death. And if you have come to a resolution about this in your own mind, then you can gently and slowly open your eyes. You can take a breath or two just to bring yourself back. So it's not, a difficult kind of way to meditate, and I hope it's useful. And also, then I thought that this could be you might want to try it out again on your own. So I have included it as the meditation practice for today, for the coming week, and you can perhaps try it out once, or if you want to do it more than once, it's fine. So it's just uh, similar to what I've just led you through. And then on top of that, I've also included a mindfulness practice. And then, the further idea is that, sometimes you might be quite inspired and things come to your mind that you really uh, find significant. And so it would be a good idea also to have a notebook that you could, well, notebook nowadays can be electronic, digital, but I'm for the old-fashioned journal kind of thing. So if whatever, is whatever you prefer, then this is something you could do also to put down some notes for yourself as you do these exercises. Yeah. So that brings us to the end of today. And, next week, just continuing to look at the second root of the time of death being uncertain, that we look more at the fragility of our lives, and then probably we'll be able to cover the third root as well. And then there are a number of other important points to bring in, and we'll reserve that for the next couple of sessions. Yeah. Is there any thing that you'd like to ask for today? If not, then we can close a little early, given that it's a big holiday anyway, isn't it, tomorrow, and for you? And even if you're not busy preparing, maybe you're being invited to a party or or two. I remember being invited a long time ago when I was in the US, and when they say that you feel really full after the Thanksgiving meal, it really is true. Okay, let me just press the send button here, and you might want to retain that document that I've just sent across for meditation and mindfulness practices. Everyone got it? So yeah, if there are no questions, then we can do dedications. Anything that you'd like to ask? No? All right. Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and dedicate then. Okay, and so just again to bring to mind our own merit field, of the Buddha, the three jewels, and then to dedicate the merit that has been created by coming to attend this talk and being interested in learning the ideas and having that willingness to contemplate, death and impermanence, understanding that it's really important to do. Then we dedicate this for, especially this is, in the US, or maybe Canada as well, then it's an important time for celebration. Then we should dedicate for peace there, in your place and everywhere in the world, and for all sentient beings. Yeah. Due to this virtue, may I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all transmigratory beings, without exception, to that state. May the precious supreme bodhicitta, not yet born, arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. Okay, thank you all. Happy holidays, and see you all next Wednesday, Thursday. Okay, thank you very much.